There you go, first rates have started filtering in on your screen. Nifty, it's a green tick. It's not like a bumper green tick, but remember we have not fallen as much as what others had fallen, so that is something which really needs to be considered here. Tata Motors, Bharti Airtel, Reliance, all of them are off to a flat start with a positive buy. So markets have opened. I can't see the colors on the screen. Maybe something's wrong here. Now I can see them. So you've got Tata Motors up by 2%. Tata Steel is off to a good start. Grasim is at 694. Tata Bajaj Finserv is also off to a nice and a steady start. Where is Reliance? Let's look at corporate banks. Those are the ones you need to talk about. Reliance and corporate banks. One moving upside, one moving on, with momentum. Other one where momentum is completely fizzled away. So right now, Reliance is at 2185, but there is a weak comeback in ICICI Bank. There is a weak comeback in Axis Bank. IT is where large amount of price action has shifted. Pharma made a late comeback yesterday. Let's see if we can pick it up from where it left. So you got to pick spots again. But in case you're wondering that Wall Street gave a great handover and why are we not simply moving in line with Wall Street? Well, folks, we fell less. If we fell less, we are likely to rise also less. Very simple explanation.
Yep, for now it's good to see that there's some respite in SBI after that significant fall in the last two trading sessions, about 1.5% higher. IndusInd Bank up 1%. You've got Axis as well, which is back in the green. Bajaj Finance is holding up. And then metals as well are seeing some bouts of green. Tata Steel was a significant mover in trade yesterday. And remember this after a fall that it started off with, recovered lost ground, held out by about 3% and another 1% push coming in. And this one, Hindalco as well holding out, and NALCO is one of the top movers within the F&O universe, about a 2% uptick coming in here. Tata Motors, RBL Bank, LIC Housing, IDFC First as well are some of the other winners. On the flip side though, Bharat Forge, Escorts, MFSL, Concor, these are the ones which are seeing some dots of red, as also Apollo Hospital. So again, you can't really pick up a trend. It's a muted start in the positive, 36 points higher, and the breadth though has finally recovered after 2 days of getting a badgering liquid.
Gives me great. Well, it gives me great pleasure now to bring on board Neelkan Mishra to talk about economy, markets, themes, and what his understanding of the macro is. He's someone I always look forward to interact both on the record and off the record. His understanding and ability to connect the dots and then come up with a strategy which you can really adopt, I think is absolutely brilliant. Well, Neelkan, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Hope everything is fine. Your kids are fine. Your colleagues are fine, and everybody is safe with you, around you.
Thank you, Nikunj. Yeah, that was a very generous introduction, and yes, thank you for your good wishes. By God's grace, everything is all good here, and hope the same with you.
Thank you very much. Now, before we get into specifics, I just want to first understand on your take on the economy. Last time when we spoke, we were in middle of the lockdown. Things were helter-skelter. Everybody was trying to understand that what would be the shape of the economy. But between our last interaction and now, it's been about 2 months, more than 2 months actually. So what in your mind has changed for the economy, and how do you think we have emerged at the macro level, at the economy level, at the consumption level?
Right. So I think the economy is doing better. The virus, unfortunately, at least in terms of the number of infections, is doing even better. So the number of infections keeps going up. But the economic trajectory has changed. Starting from here, it is important for us to remember is that the improvement in the economy going forward is going to be slow and gradual, right? So in the downturn, we fell to maybe at the lockdown, we fell to maybe 50% of normal. Then we have bounced back. So in our estimate, we are at about 90% of normal right now. About 7% of GDP worth of consumption, about 2% of GDP worth of investment is still restricted, either by regulation or by fear. and then there is some demand overlay. So about 10% of GDP is still not fully back on. So we moved from 50 to 90 in about 3.5, 4 months. But we think that the 90 to 100 will happen over the next 6 months. So 6 to 7 months, and therefore the pace of normalization is actually going to slow down. So we are seeing some disappointment among people that look, suddenly the sharp recovery is kind of tapering off. At this stage, it has to, because there is quite a bit of restriction still, and in some cases, like Lonavala saw a lockdown yesterday, etc. So I think there are local governments which are still imposing lockdowns. There are things like quarantine requirements for travelers, which now seem a bit odd to see, because now almost every district in India has more than 1,000 cases. So from an economic opening up perspective, we think that as local governments and state governments also sort of realize the futility of these weekend lockdowns and the random lockdowns and these restrictions on travelers, etc., the regulatory constraint on the economy will slowly keep getting lifted. And as the case fatality rates keep going down, I think we are still seeing too many deaths, I think 1,000, 1,100. But the only good thing I will say is that number has not risen, meaning that if we were still at the 3 to 4% case fatality rate, by now we have been seeing more than 3,000 deaths a day. So we are still at about 1,000 deaths a day. And the incremental case fatality rate continues to fall. What is even more important for us to know is that all these seroprevalence studies are showing that the number of infections is actually far higher than the number of cases we're able to track. And if you were to use a simple ratio, it's not theoretically accurate, but this is the best data we have. The infection fatality rates are more in the order of 0.05 to 0.1%. So as this becomes more widespread, as the disease in the rural areas, seroprevalence is still less than 5%. In the next 3-4 months, I think it will continue to rise. As most places get to that 40, 50, 55% seroprevalence, I think the curve tapers off. Hopefully the virus keeps becoming weaker over time. And we think that by the fourth quarter, we should be at about 0% GDP growth year on year. That is helped by the structural factors. Before the virus, we were still growing 5-6%, lower than what we should, but we were still growing. So despite that upward surge, or upward what I would call tailwinds, which regularly help the economy, we should be back to about 0% in the fourth quarter.